great if you could share, in a bit more detail, a couple of the projects or products maybe that you've developed in the workforce analytics.
Sure. Team. Yeah. So one big push that we've had over the last year or so, and we've turned into a product, is a problem that I think it's an opportunity and a problem that many orgs face, is finding the right people for the right roles at the right time as fast as you can.
Yeah.
And the speed and the way that you kind of cut through perhaps a really big pile of application is difficult, and often that's manual, and the processes by which you do that are often kind of almost working in opposite of quality of candidate, and so we partnered pretty early on with our recruiting leads and our global head of recruiting to kind of attack that problem. It's how do you sort the stack, and how do you just understand where there might be hidden value in the stack that is just really hard to examine and interrogate by human beings when you're talking thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. The bank receives millions of applications a year across as many job families as you can count. So we built a few machine learning models to understand basic decisions across the applicant flow. Is a candidate likely to be reviewed and passed along to a manager, and then hired, and then stay in his or her seat longer than 180 days, which is roughly a productivity break point on a lot of the kind of high volume, high churn, in some case, roles that we have that are in our call center environment, that are in our operations environment. So that's been a really successful one for us. We see that our models, they don't make decisions for people, but the way that we've designed it is to give our recruiting organization another signal to work with, a predictive signal. And we've trained our org to understand what they're looking at in the tools that they work in. So we embed a signal in the tools they use every day. It's not kind of a manual, offline, clunky cross-reference. It's embedded in the tools they use every day. And we've built, I think, a pretty well-thought experimental design construct to understand how fast and how much quality candidates are passing through the system by recruiters who see a signal versus those who don't see a signal. Yeah. And so I think scoping the problem really sharply up front, down to the job family, in our case, was really important. And then understanding how we'll be able to tell if it's working
really important part
is important. So having that be part of implementation and deployment on the back end is something that we've paid a lot of attention to, and I think we've seen the kind of results that we'd hoped for. We're being objective and honest throughout that whole process. You don't want to find a signal you hope to see.
Yeah.
But we're seeing really positive results, and we're scaling that product across more and more jobs this year.
And I guess that's the sort of thing that creates demand from the business, when the benefit is being felt by the recruiters, but also by the business as well that are hiring these roles.
Yeah, it is. That's a good example of where we plugged into a number of different kind of strategy items that have already been expressed by the recruiting org, by business leaders who are looking to kind of grow and scale and do different things in their respective organizations. So getting good people is always going to be key to that, and getting them quickly without kind of doing it in more manual, cost-heavy ways is something that we thought we could help with, and I think we are. So.
And then I guess helping that process, but also making sure you still get the right people.
That's right.
Which is I guess saving time and money, but actually getting the right people, because that obviously generates the business outcome.
And a model can only take you so far.
Yeah.
With that, we don't make decisions for people. We give them data to make decisions, and so we're nudging people to look at these candidates before those, and we are I think allowing candidates that are good for the role to be seen sooner by recruiters and then by hiring managers who make the decision. So are they the right fit? Will they get on with the team? The model doesn't tell you that. The model tells you if they have some basic requirements and a few other things that are probabilistic of their success in the role. And we do this in a way that is, probably touched on a point here, is fair.
Yeah.
And we've done a lot of work to make sure that that adverse impact kind of being built into the model, that doesn't happen, that we've remediated against that during the model build, and that we have out-of-model adverse impact identification and remediation procedures that are in place to make sure that the model, while maybe powerful and accurate, doesn't inadvertently disenfranchise a class of applicants that was unintentional. So that's a really, really important part of it. And the more that you balance the decision making or decision nudging that the model might suggest versus what people will do, I think that also serves as a countercheck to maybe building unintentional bias into the decision process based on how it's always been done versus how it should be done going forward.
In this series, we will be speaking to a range of senior leaders who are pushing a data-driven and digital HR agenda. Make sure that you subscribe via your podcast app of choice and also via our YouTube channel for free and regular interviews with the digital HR leaders of the future.